on? It's not on because it was on mute. That's why it's not on. So let me repeat all that, especially for those of you online that just saw my mouth moving and there's nothing. We're in this really weird season where we're super dependent on technology. That's what I was talking about. And dependent upon people who know what they're doing with technology. But we're in this season where the majority of people that are gathered for worship today are not in the room with us. The majority are online. And it's weird when you're preaching because when you're in the room, I can see you and I can see your reactions. And I kind of feed off those reactions. So if I see somebody nodding their head, it's like, hey, doing something right. Keep going there. If somebody's looking at me with this really confused look, it's like, you keep going there. You got to explain this a little more. If somebody's nodding their head no, it's like, all right, mark that person off. No, I would not do that. No, but I'm just saying, like, I can see you and I react. When I'm preaching to a camera, I can't see you. I know you're there. I know that there's 88 households that are signed in right now. So I know you're there, but I can't see your reactions. And so what I wanted to try this morning was I brought my laptop up here and I've got the live stream going because I want to begin by asking for a reaction. And so those of you in the room, you're just going to react by raising your hand. The old-fashioned way of reacting when somebody asks you a question, you raise your hand to say yes. Those of you that are watching online, what I want to ask you to do is if you're on Facebook, I want you to hit the little blue emoji. Not right now. Some of you are quick on the draw. I want you to hit the blue emoji when I ask this question. So if your answer is yes to the question, you hit the little blue emoji and let that pop up. If you're on YouTube, you'll just have to go in the comments because there's no emojis on YouTube. So you'll just have to say yes or no in the comment section. Or you can just say it aloud to your TV. A lot of us talk to our TV when we watch CNN or Fox, so you can talk to your TV when you watch church. So here's the question, all right. How many of you, I'll back that up. Have you ever run a 5K? At any point in your life, have you ever run a 5K? Show of hands in the room, okay, quite a few, and emojis online. All right. Okay, there we go. So several of us, that's the most popular race distance. So that's 3.1 miles. A lot of people have run 5Ks. There's thousands of 5Ks across the country every year. There's like a half dozen to a dozen in Murray County alone every year. So there's plenty of opportunities to run 5K. What about a half marathon? How many of you have ever run a half marathon? That's the second, 13.1 miles. That's the second most popular race distance. And so online, how many of you have ever run, I'm talking to my computer, I actually need to talk there. Online, how many of you have ever run a half marathon? Just hit the blue emoji. And let's see how many of you guys have done that, because that's a popular one too. I've done a few of those, the one in Nashville, and there's one in Memphis and some others, that kind of thing. So last one, the Big Daddy. How many of you have ever run a marathon at any point in your life? 26.2 miles. So wow, the numbers are going down significantly there. Okay, and online, just tell us, how many of you have ever run a marathon? Okay, numbers are going down. All right, and if you've not run any of those distances, just hit the laugh emoji right there if you've not run any of those distances, and those of you online, if you want to in person, if you want to raise your hands and laugh, that's fine, because it is kind of funny if you think about it, to voluntarily run 26 miles, but the thing is, it's not voluntary. We pay somebody to do it. We pay people money. Hey, I'm going to give you $50, $100 if you'll let me run 26 miles and torture myself. And so, there's a ton of laugh emojis coming through. They're still coming through. Here's the reason I'm asking you that. If you've run a race before, this analogy this morning, it'll help if you've run a race before. If you haven't run a race, you can still imagine with me, okay? Imagine that your friend signs you up for a 5K, and they don't tell you about it. About a week or two before the race, they say, hey, I'm meant to mention this earlier so you'd have a little time to prepare for it, but I've signed you up for a 5K and you're going to run it. And you had no prep, you had no training, you did not see it's coming, you're not mentally prepared, you're not physically prepared, you're not emotionally prepared, you're not prepared in any way whatsoever to run this race. But your friend has signed you up, and so you're going to run it. And because you think, I can gut this out, right? 3 miles, I can gut it out. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. You may be the guy running, upright and everything's feeling good after 3 miles. You may be the guy bent over after a tenth of a mile. But 3 miles, we can walk it. we can make this. We can do this, no matter how difficult it is. So you decide to do the race, and you run the race. And you do. You just gut it out. I mean, your legs are burning. Your lungs are on fire. I mean, you're just breathing any way you can get air. And you get to the mile 3 of the race. And at mile 3 of the race, you look in the distance because you know the finish line is just right there. It's a 1/10 of a mile. I mean, come on. I mean, you've practically done. It's a 1/10 of a mile. And you look down the road and it hits you that there should be a finish line. Like you should see balloons and ticker tape. Like you should see something telling you you're about done, and you don't see anything. All you see in front of you is road. And you're thinking, why is there no finish? I mean, there ought to be, just right there ought to be a finish line. And at that point, you turn to your friend and say, where's the finish line? I thought we were almost done. And they say, oh, no, man, I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I didn't sign you up for a 5K. I signed you up for a marathon. And at this point, you want to strike your friend, right? But I mean, can you imagine being in that situation where you thought you were going to run a 5K? You weren't even prepared for that. But now that you're running the race, you're told it's going to be a marathon. Now you've got 23.1 miles to go. You can't even see the finish line, and you don't have any idea what's ahead of you. You don't know if the road is hilly. You don't know if it's curvy. You don't know if it's rocky. You don't know if it's hot. And what do you think in that moment? That moment when you discover, I'm not running a 5K, I'm running a marathon. What are the thoughts that immediately go through your head? I'm done, right? I'm out. It's over. I mean, everything within you would feel like giving up at that point because you didn't think you could run 3, and now you're supposed to run another 23. It's like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. There's no way I'm going to finish this race because I'm not prepared for it. So everything within you feels like quitting. So that's something of what I felt like 5 or 6 weeks ago when it hit me. That COVID is not a 5K, it's a marathon. And I remember, it's kind of like somebody signing you up to run the 5K. Like we all got signed up to run the COVID race, whether we were ready for it or not. And you remember we only had a week or 2 notice. It was like they were reporting one week about something in China, and then the next week it was in Italy, and then the next week we were shutting down businesses in America. I mean, it was like we didn't have any notice, but we all got signed up for the race, and we all ran it. We put on our best. We're like, okay, governor issued the safer at home order, and then a week later it was a stay-at-home order. And we're like, all right, we can do this. Let's go. And the schools closed, and sports were canceled, and churches stopped in-person services, and everything got disrupted. But do you remember how positive we were the first 2 or 3 weeks of it? I mean, people were pretty like, we can do this. We were making jokes about quarantine and everybody staying at home and everybody's trying to encourage each other because everybody's thinking, it's just, anybody can do this. It's just 3 miles. Anybody can do 3 miles. And we started doing it thinking, it's just going to be a couple weeks and everything will get back to normal. I mean, I remember them sharing memes about how awesome church was going to be when we reopened the services because the church was going to be 3 times as many people in the building when we reopened the services because, we just had all of these optimistics, just like at the start of a race, you have all these optimism of how good it's going to go, and then when you start running and the legs start burning and the lugs start burning and you start realizing, this is going to be a long race. This is going to take a while. And I thought early on, like with church, just for me, I'm thinking, there's no way this thing goes past 2 or 3 weeks of no in-person services. No way. And then I was thinking, there's no way it goes into Easter. Churches will not miss Easter. And there's no way Mother's Day. No way. Church is not going to miss Mother's Day in person. There's no way. There's no way that goes into May. There's no way that it goes into the summer. And for us, it didn't go into the summer. Like we restarted in-person services at the end of May. But then we had a positive case, and we sent an email out about that. When we reopened in May, we had about 230, 240 people show up, and we're like, hey, we're going to ramp back up pretty quick. This is going to be good. And we had a positive case, and we sent an email out about that and told you about it, and then things spiked in our nation, and then things spiked locally, and that's when it hit me. This is not a 5K. This is a marathon. We got a long way left to go. I mean, even just locally, if you think like when we restarted in-person services at this church, there were about 20 active cases in Murray County and no hospitalizations. And yesterday I saw there's 555 active cases in Murray County and a little over 20 hospitalizations. They only have 26 beds in the ICU unit at Murray Regional, ICU unit at Murray Regional. So I mean, like it's at the peak now. When we restarted, it was at its lowest point. And so that's when you realize like we got a long way to go and we don't know what it looks like. Like already they're talking about school starts tomorrow for Murray County schools and already 2 of the schools are closed. Well, a grade in Whitthorne and then Spring Hill are already closed. And it's like we're going to see that stuff happening. Everybody's going, what's going to happen with football season? What's going to happen with this? And what's going to happen with this? There's so many uncertainties and there's so much unknown. And like I can't be the only one that feels this way, because I'm thinking whatever situation you're in, whether you're a teacher, whether you're running a business, maybe you own a business or you work in management at a business, maybe you're in sales and everything's got disrupted in the sales world. Maybe you're a medical professional, maybe you're a part of a nonprofit, or you're just a stay-at-home mom trying to figure out, you're telling me they're going to shut school down again? My kids have been home for 5 months, and now I'm going to have to be their teacher too. I mean, it's just there's so much unknown, and all of us are in this situation where we're realizing, like, we've got a really long way to go. And it may have hit you 5 or 6 weeks ago. It may have hit you a week ago. It may just be hitting you now, like, this is going to take a while to get through. So what do you do? I mean, as people of faith, what do you do when you realize you still got a long way to go? What do? You keep running. I mean, that's what you do. You keep running. You don't give up. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. You keep staying focused on the road ahead, not the road behind. You avoid the temptation to get cynical. You avoid the temptation to go negative. You avoid the temptation to give up. You just stay faithful. You stay inspired. You stay positive, and you stay focused. I want to give you a theme verse for the rest of this year, and you may need it in 2021 as well. But I want to give you a theme verse that you might want to, if you're in the room, you might want to pull out your phone, be ready to take a screenshot of this. Those of you that are watching online, you might want to get your whatever you got on your phone, or take a screenshot of this verse right here, okay? This is Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Look at this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. That's our theme verse to get through this pandemic. I know there's so much in here like that you can, like we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. We're not the first people to deal with difficulty. We're not the first people to deal with struggle. We're not even the first people to deal with a pandemic. We're certainly not the first church to deal with this. They dealt with this in 1918 as a church, and they didn't have online options. There's many people who have gone before us, many faithful Christians who have endured much, much more difficulty than we're having to endure. As Paul says, in another place in Scripture, our light and momentary troubles. And they are momentary. But so we're surrounded by people who have done this and been there, and you could read chapter 11 and see who some of those folks are. So let's throw off everything that hinders and throw off the sin that so easily entangles, because it is difficult when we are stressed and we are worried and we are fearful. It's easy for sin to slip in. Whether we're self-medicating because we're so overwhelmed with everything and we're trying to kind of numb the emotions, or whether we just get short with people or cranky or angry or whatever, it's easy for sin to slip in. So get rid of the sin and run with perseverance. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep moving ahead. It doesn't feel like you can move ahead. Just keep moving ahead. Keep looking ahead. And fix our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Here's the second half of that verse. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you do not grow weary and lose heart. My challenge to you, I'm going to go back to that first part there, because again, I'm going to say, take a screenshot of that or jot that down somewhere. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1 through 3. And I challenge you to put that somewhere where you see it every day. whether it's the dash of your truck or tape it to your mirror where you get ready or tape it to the coffee pot, something every day you're going to see it. Make it the screensaver on your phone or whatever. And you look at the other translations and see if you like those translations better, if those speak to you a little bit more. Make it somewhere where you see it every day. And let's commit to reading and meditating on this verse daily and see what kind of difference that makes as we lead our businesses, as we lead our classrooms, as we lead our ministries, as maybe we're a student and we're going back to school and we've got to prepare for that, or whatever it is that we're doing, as we lead our families, that we commit ourselves to reading and meditating on this verse right here and reading and meditating on what it means to run with perseverance, what it means to fix our eyes on Jesus, what it means to consider Him so that we don't grow weary and lose heart, because we are going to grow weary and we are going to lose heart. You've probably experienced that multiple times throughout this pandemic, and it's far from over. If you're already experiencing some weariness in the first 3 miles, and I'm saying there's a lot more left to go, we're going to need this. We're going to need this encouragement. And yep, I'm preaching to myself as much as I'm preaching to you guys. So this is something that I want to spend some time on this passage right here, and I want to be the kind of person that stays focused and stays faithful and stays positive and inspired by focusing on the one who did that for me, by focusing on Jesus. So that's my challenge to you. And we will get through it. It is a season. It may be a long season. We may not know when the season ends, but it is a season, and seasons come to an end and new seasons begin. So it is temporary. No matter how long it goes, it is temporary, and we got to keep that in mind as well. So let me pray for us, and we'll be dismissed here in just a moment. So bow with me. Father, I thank you for your word, and there is so much encouragement in your word if we just open our eyes to see it. And there's verses like this that we've read, dozens of times we've seen this verse. But when we take an ancient verse like this and apply it to current context, it suddenly comes to life. It's like, wow, it was almost written as if it was written to me, as well as the people thousands of years ago. And that's exactly what it was, that your word is timeless and it's eternal. And it encourages us today in the same way that it encourages the first century church. So, Father, I pray you help us to do this. Those that are tired and weary, help them to find the inspiration and the motivation to keep going through this season of life. And it's in the name of your Son, Jesus, I pray these things. Amen. All right. Next week, we will start the story, and you don't have to start the reading schedule yet. So the way it's going to work is I'll do the message, and then you'll do the reading. So the message is kind of the setup for the reading. And next week's going to be an introduction to the Bible. Like, what is the Bible? When was it written? Who wrote it? And all that kind of stuff. So I'll do that next Sunday. Pick